desegregation of the schools and fight to be afforded the same rights that the other children were afforded. Today, we are still fighting for those rights. Equal educational opportunities in our neighborhoods, equal representation within our justice system, and equal respect from society. The only thing that has changed is that now our fight is not only against the race that once denied us our rights, but from the races that look just like us. About 20 minutes away in Far Rockaway, there's PS 106, who has been without math or reading and writing books for the rigorous Common Core curriculum. The 234 kids get no gym or art classes. Instead, they watch movies all day. No substitutes are hired when a teacher is absent. Students are divvied up among other classes, and about 40 kindergartners have no room in the 3-story brick building. They sit all day in dilapidated trailers that reek of animal urine. Rats and squirrels noisily scamper in the walls and ceiling. The principal, who looks just like the students she is supposed to service, is nowhere in sight. As we fought to be afforded the same educational opportunities as our white counterparts, here we have a school with the ability to soar, and the leader is not helping to advance their abilities to be doctors, lawyers, engineers, nurses, and productive members of society. Yet we ask, why are our kids wandering the streets, being targeted, and being locked up? What are we doing to advance the educational opportunities of our minority youth? In 1955, a 14-year-old black boy was murdered in Mississippi for reportedly flirting with a white woman. Roy Bryant and J.W. Millen took Emmett Till, transported him to a barn, beat him, and gouged out one of his eyes, before shooting him through the head and disposing of his body in the Tallahatchie River, weighting it with a 70-pound cotton gin fan tied around the neck with barbed wire. His body was discovered and retrieved from the river 3 days later. They were acquitted of Till's kidnapping and murder. But only months later, in a magazine interview protected against double jeopardy, they admitted to killing him. 57 years later, a man observed a 17-year-old black boy as he returned to the Twin Lakes housing community after having walked to a nearby convenience store. A violent encounter took place between Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman, which ended when Zimmerman fatally shot Martin 70 yards from the rear door of the townhouse where Martin was staying. Zimmerman was too acquitted of Martin's murder. 57 years later, a man gets into an altercation with a 17-year-old black boy because his music is too loud. And when Jordan Davis turns his back, Michael Dunn fatally shoots him, then goes to his hotel with his wife and has a glass of wine. Although Dunn was found guilty of attempted murder and possession of a firearm, he wasn't convicted for the murder of Davis. Wasn't convicted for Davis's murder. 57 years later, young black and Hispanic men are being stopped and frisked exponentially greater than their male counterparts, while our system defends the disproportionate findings. These stories continue to permeate throughout our justice system. We continue to witness a justice system where the time doesn't fit the crime and is dependent on your race. These are some of the vivid and unequivocally unequal stories we have heard and we see. The need for equality is still relevant. We live in a day and age where we have a black president, but many won't address him with the respect due because of his race. Many won't work across the aisle with him because of his race. Many will publicly ridicule and tarnish his name because of his race. Civil rights movement is not over. We have yet to overcome. Every time my colleagues or myself walk into a courtroom to present a case, the looks of astonishment and shock prevail. Every time I address an audience of my counterparts and the comments of how well I speak, or the surprise of how knowledgeable I am, or how well I carry myself, prevails. We live in a day and age where our own actions become the judgment of everyone in our race. The music videos which degrade women or promote the N-word, the notion that getting money is more important than getting an education prevails. The pride in serving time rather than serving our community prevails. The prevalence of pants around the ankles rather than around the waist, and the list goes on, prevails. And we as a race have the audacity to say we have overcome. We have yet to see the mountaintop.
Amen.
Where do we start? We must remember that Black history is very relevant and must be taught every day, not just 28 days.
Amen.
Amen.
We must be accountable for our young Black men and women who are products of those schools who don't give them the resources they need to be successful. We must get involved in the politics and laws that affect us, who oftentimes fall victim to their bias and prejudice. We must advocate for what is right and not sit silent, nor be apathetic for what is wrong. We must promote the positive in our youth and encourage them to see how the world views them. We must empower our youth to stand up and speak out against inequalities. Some of our greatest leaders recognized that there was something wrong at early ages, and despite those naysayers and people who tried to stifle their voice, they still stood up and spoke out. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s father wanted him to return back to Atlanta after seminary school in Boston, but MLK said no, and knew he had a mission and a calling to stand up and speak out. Nelson Mandela often encountered critics who were content with the status quo and felt he was stirring up too much trouble. But he stood up and spoke out. Who among us is next? Who will carry the torch? Everyone can help everyone reach to the mountaintop. We are all in this together. We all fall victim to inequality that prevails. I challenge every one of you to be an activist in this movement. Whether it is volunteering to mentor a youth so that they are guided in the right path, starting a scholarship fund to help those who are unable to afford an education, or donating your talents to the local schools and communities.
Right here, right here.
Right here. These are strides to ensuring that we are moving towards the mountaintop, and St. Joseph is making strides to move our youth towards the mountaintop.
Amen.
If we don't do it, who will? We cannot wait. The movement began already, and it's still going on. Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure.
Amen.
It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. It won't be easy. It never is. But it's in this moment of uneasiness that true change is made. Thank you.
Amen.